Hold up.
So welcome. I am Jenny. I am one half of the Six Figure Freelancer community. My business partner and I run the community together. And what we teach is cold pitching and lead creation and client creation for freelancers, all freelancers. So social media, influencer marketing, content marketing, copywriters, all of it. I stumbled across cold pitching as a starving freelancer. I was pretty much down to $75 and no way, and not hireable. It was not going to work out for me out in the real world. And my last waitressing stint turned into me throwing an omelet back at someone who threw one at me first. So I had to make this work. I was not typically the person that you would expect who would just jump into the ring and do any kind of cold emailing, cold pitching, cold anything. The thought of it made me want to vomit. And I just couldn't go there.
So new. I knew that job boards weren't working out. I knew content mills and job mills weren't working out. I knew that, especially at the time I started, which was 11 years ago, I also knew that successful freelancers of the time were stingy. You would go to somebody and you would say, hey, I don't know how to get clients. And they would be like, connect, leverage your network. What the hell does that mean? Like, what does that mean when you're first starting out? So I stumbled across cold pitching as sheer necessity, you guys. And what I learned from it completely changed my business. Here's what's incredible about cold pitching. You don't need a website. You don't need anything fancy to get started. You have to drink your own Kool-Aid. So if you're still looking at your social media skills as a skill, knock it off. It's time to start looking at it as a solution. I was able to make my first $100,000 using a Hotmail account, which I use sometimes still today, jennyberes@hotmail.com. You're welcome to reach out. And cold pitching. And what's remarkable about it is that we're not talking about the kind of cold pitches that you guys get in your inbox, I'm sure, like we all do, which is, hey, I stumbled across your website. I'm a web designer and I can help get, I can give you 10 times the ROI. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about consumer-based pitching, where automatically you have a foot in the door that they don't want to step on. Immediately, your cold pitch is warm because you are reaching out to them from a point of consumer-based opinions, consumer-based interest. Whether they respond to you or not, whether they decide to work with you or not, it does not change the fact that you have established yourself as a fan of the business, that you know what they're about, that you know what they're doing. And because of that, you have cherry-picked them because you know that your solution works perfectly for your favorite company in the world, which is them. The goal of every cold pitch that you send is you want them to think that they were the only person in the world that you thought of that day. That you sat down and said, oh, you know what? I just stumbled across this company, tried their product, ordered on Amazon, whatever, and now I know that I can help them. The key is to take a personalized approach and templatize it so that you get the best of both worlds. You get a consumer-based pitch that converts and the numbers that you need to convert, especially when you're first starting out. Now, as we get started, there are a few things that I want you to keep in mind. None of us pop out of the womb as a sales master. And none of us pop out of the womb as the expert cold pitcher, cold caller. So there is a learning curve to this because as a freelance business owner, you have two responsibilities now, not one. The first responsibility that you have is obviously, how good is your craft? How good is your solution? Are you solving actual problems? And if you're not, how do you up the ante so that you continue to do so? But you can't do that without customers. So sales mastery / customer acquisition is also the most important arena that you have to master. And so I think that is the number one reason that we see freelancers struggle so often, and talented. You guys, I have talked to so many talented freelancers who have been doing this for years, even 3-4 years, and haven't cracked $3K a month. Why? You're skilled, You know what you're doing, but have you mastered sales? Have you mastered business? So you have two sides of the equation. And if you would ask me, what is more important at this stage? Do you need to know customer acquisition, or do you need to know or spend all your time with your nose in the book learning your solution, learning your skill? I am going to tell you to go get a customer. I'm going to tell you to go get a client, because you can't practice, you can't actually figure out solutions in a vacuum. The better your customer acquisition becomes, the better your craft becomes, the better your solutions become. And so whether you are on this call and you are brand new to social media, or you are on this call and you relate to what I'm saying about someone who's been doing it for a few years and hasn't been able to crack the income code, here's what's really exciting about cold pitching. It stops now. Because you aren't looking at job boards. You aren't looking at Upwork. You aren't asking your grandmother's great, second cousin's bingo partner to hook you up with their rich uncle who has a business. None of that. Who can you help? Who do you want to help? And do you actually believe that what you offer is a solution? And if it's not, 2mm changes until it is. So one of my favorite things about pitching is that I was really burned out on people who wanted to pay me $25 and a stick of juicy fruit to write a blog. I thought that was real crap. And you obviously can't live on that. And I was really at the point where I was paying for dog food in quarters, and my dog is 3 pounds. So that gives you an accurate estimate on where things had gotten financially. So enough was enough. So who do you pitch? Who do you pitch? Anybody who has $10 million in revenue is going to be able to afford a decent retainer, premium rate retainer, if they are pulling $10 million in revenue. Anybody who is doing $5 million in revenue at the minimum will be able to swing a retainer in the ballpark of $1,500 to $3,000. A startup who has at least $1 million in funding will be able to afford. The top line I've ever pushed that was $5,000. And that was the very top. Generally, they're between 3 and 4 for a $1 million startup. I pitch for retainers and highly suggest that you do that as well. First of all, for what you do, I sell a lot of, my business partner, I sell a lot of influencer outreach. That is not unlike social media marketing in the sense where you can't just do one project and there you go. That's an accurate result of what you can do for them. So you want to make sure that all of your pitches are with retainers in mind. And so this revenue becomes very, very important, because you're looking for people who are only going to be able to afford ongoing work. So 10 million in revenue. Now that doesn't mean you cannot go higher than that. One of the biggest myths, and if you fall into this category, knock it off. One of the biggest myths that I hear is, a company that big, they have a full-time marketing team, so I'm not going to pitch them. So what? I have seen in 11 years, billion-dollar businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses who have full-blown marketing teams hire freelancers for spillover work. I see them bring on freelancers just for specific projects. I've seen them get rid of the whole damn team and go freelance. Then I have seen them not open to it. Then I have seen them go completely agency style, get tired of being one of 20 clients, and come back to freelancers. So if you make assumptions about who you pitch and why you pitch them, you are cutting yourself out of fantastic, lucrative opportunities. Because these retainers, guys, when you approach your business as a solution and you pitch not as somebody who is skill-based, because what does that sound like? It sounds like you're applying for a job. But when you are selling a solution, these retainers last. They last well beyond that first 3-month, 6-month trial. I've had retainers last 4-5 years. And that is really what you want. You want the retainers that last. So let's get back to this consumer-based pitch. In all of my years of pitching, you guys, I've never had somebody turn around. I'm doing this a long time. I've never had somebody turn around and be like, you jerk, get out of my inbox. And that's the fear. That is totally the fear. Everybody's like, oh, they're gonna say, don't pitch me. Get out of my inbox. They're gonna be rude. They're gonna be mean. That is what the consumer-based pitch insulates you from. Because as business owners, we're all business owners. If somebody wrote to you cold, and the first 3 lines of their email was a connection to what you do, why they love it, how it's helped them, would you be so willing to step on their toes? Would you feel like that was possibly spam? Or would it feel like, hey, this is someone who actually knows what I'm doing, who actually gives a crap about what I'm doing? What works for you guys when somebody reaches out to you cold, or what would work for you guys when someone reaches out to you cold, is exactly what works for CEOs of Fortune 500 businesses, and everything in between. So think about your pitch from the consumer standpoint. Now, some people say to me, what if my target client is B2B? What if it's not B2C? That works for B2C because you could try a product, or you can, talk about how you're going to try a product. You can do all those things. But what about B2B? If you are planning on being a social media marketer or a copywriter or an influencer marketing strategist for a company, you have to be able to put and present yourself as a customer. You may not be the customer, but you need to be able to tap into those salient points of what their customer would be benefiting from, and talk about why that stands out. So whether it's B2B or B2C, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you connect to what makes them different. I'd like to see too in the comments, and then I obviously if you have questions, please ask now that I'm all set up and not, now you guys can hear me. I'm happy to answer questions. But I'd be curious to know how many of you have tried cold pitching before, and as we go through this, and what kind of responses that you've gotten. So one of the biggest things, I read a lot of pitches. One of the biggest things that fails, and I mean bottoms out hard with pitching, is the skill-based pitch. So it's where you reach out. That's awesome, Geraldine. Yeah, it makes a big difference. So that is where you present your skills. I am a social media marketer that is able to achieve, you throw in some numbers that don't really connect to a bottom line or a solution, or I am a copywriter who's really good at, making words sing on the paper, or whatever it is. Guarantee the CEO is going to look at that email, turn to his partner or her partner and say, hey, were we hiring for this? They're going to say no, and he's going to delete your email. Because you're selling a skill. And anytime you're selling a skill, you're applying for a job. What are you selling? What product are you selling? And it's only a product, essentially, service as a product, as if it is a solution. So Ashley said, my most recent cold pitch got a no thank you. At least they replied, that's great. Celebrate those guys. When you hear back, celebrate. That means you were completely cold and unknown to them, and they replied back to you. So let's talk about the ROI. This is the hardest part of a cold pitch, because a business owner isn't just going to spend money on you because he or she feels like it. When they read your email, they want to know, are we going to get money back from this? Plain and simple. Which means every one of you in here needs to be able to tell me, if I unmuted you right now, how do you put money into the hands of a business owner with what you do? Now, social media marketing obviously is different than other certain kinds of freelancing. But every kind, whether in marketing, we're all in marketing, we're all in this together. Every single skill can be a solution. There's more lucrative ways to do it, of course, but graphic design, you can attach that to an ROI. Copywriting, you can attach it to an ROI. Social media, attach it to an ROI. Influencer marketing, attach it to an ROI. They just look different. But your responsibility is to know how that looks for you. What does that look like? Now, when you're first getting started doing this, and maybe when you're first getting started with clients, it can be really, really scary, because you're like, do I have to have this whole grid? Do I have to have all of these numbers? Do I have to have, do I have to show them proof? And it's actually a lot simpler than that. because we are in this together as an industry. Social media did not blow up because it was pointless. Social media did not blow up because it didn't add to the bottom line. You have to figure out, where do you come into play with that? So one of my favorite things to do is to read and keep a couple really good stats that I believe in, that I know that I am a part of, and keep them and use them in my pitch. So your first paragraph in your pitch, consumer-based. It is just you gushing. Couple lines. You don't want to go over the top, but just, what do you like about them specifically? Use the company name. Talk about the product name. How are they making a difference? You know, if you make sure you have something in there that connects with them. Second paragraph, and these are short, guys, but second paragraph, this is where you get into who you are and why you're reaching out. If you want them to fall asleep, introduce yourself as a professional social media marketer. They'll just fall over. What are you? So one thing that I present, I like using words that really make what we do stand out. I feel like one of the things that I do, for example, for influencer marketing, is I am a renegade. I am going to succeed spectacularly, and I am going to fail spectacularly before I get there. And you have to be okay with trying new stuff. So I use that kind of language when I introduce myself. I let them know through language who they're getting right off the bat. It could be as simple as a change with, I'm a social media rock star. Just something that shows that you are a cut above just what they think. Because as marketers, all of us, regardless of what it is that we do, people are skeptical of us at first. People think digital marketing is a bunch of smoke and mirrors that a lot of agencies get paid too much to do. As individual freelancers, you guys are in the best period right now, and I want, it's a little bit of a side note, but I want you to know this. You are in the best period for client acquisition that I have seen for freelancers in 11 years. And the reason why is because there has been a lot of kickback against big agencies right now. A lot of kickback against agencies charging $40,000, $60,000 for things that they're not delivering because it's impossible to deliver when you are overwhelmed. Now, that's not everybody. And that is, I'm not saying that that's everybody, but there is a trend right now. And so people are open to the one-man show or the one-woman show. People are excited to say, you are going to be solely responsible for this. That's wonderful. I want an expert. I want a boutique-sized expert. And that is really exciting. So in that second paragraph, your job right then and there is to hook them with who you are, why you are that expert. Also in that second paragraph, it is really important that one of those stats that I mentioned, that you have in there. That is going to replace, you don't have to dig up your own personal stuff for this pitch. You don't have to promise ROI. Do not promise ROI. You can make other types of promises, but promising ROI is something you don't obviously want on your shoulders because there are other variables that go into it. But speaking from a collective, you're speaking from the industry collective. What are some stats that you think are really impressive about social media that you work towards as a goal? So for example, I'll just give you influencer marketing as an example because that's what I currently pitch right now. So with influencer marketing, 36% of all new customers that are retained through 36% of customers that are got through influencer marketing are retained. That is what an average comes out to be. Industry standard. Some campaigns that have done that, yes. Have I had some that didn't? Of course. But industry standard, if this is what you take on as a marketing strategy, this is a standard of what you can expect once you commit to it and you go down that road. So for you guys, what is it? What are those stats that you really, like, you have a solution, you know what you offer. So are you a Facebook ads genius? What are the stats on that? Why should somebody do that? What in its best light, what does a great Facebook ad campaign do? If you're excellent at customer service through social media, which, as you guys know, and you know this well, you're not using your social platforms as a customer service outlet, well, then someone's going to go find your competitor who does and who answers them in an hour. Do you build great relationships that turn into dollars through a buyer cycle by using Instagram and Pinterest? What are the stats that support your solution for their business? I want you to start looking at businesses as a boat, and there are holes in this boat. Where does your solution plug those holes? So just to give you an example to help you think about your own skill, in influencer marketing, and I suspect social marketing would probably do the same in respects. If you're running a paid advertising campaign with absolutely no content, no relationship building, your paid advertising stuff is going to tank. I've been on many campaigns where that was the result. So where do you plug the holes in the company's boat? What do you do? Now, you don't want to pitch, when you introduce yourself to them in this second paragraph, you don't want to pitch yourself as a jack of all trades. It's very easy to say, I'm a social media marketer. But you guys, to most business owners, they have no idea what that means. And a lot of them think that means you play on Facebook all day long. Now, my boyfriend is a Facebook ads manager, and he is a Facebook person. And when I started making him cold pitch, he was really discouraged at first because he was like, I'm not hearing back from anybody. And I took a look at his pitches. And in that second paragraph, it was too vague. It was too broad. Just telling somebody that you're good at social media, they don't know what that means. So pare down, what is it? What is special about what you do on social media? And then find an industry-related stat that helps support what it is you're saying you're a rock star in. So if you are a Facebook ads rock star, tell them. And then tell them what industry-wise Facebook ads can do. How is that a rock star in what you're offering? When you are looking at these companies, there's two ways that this can go. I'm going to tell you the first one, and I'm going to ask you to forget what I told you. The first thing is you always want to see, is there a gap in the company that I'm pitching? Is there a gap? What could they be doing better? Are they running, is their Facebook page dead? Is their Instagram, are they using terrible hashtags? I don't know. I'm not a social media manager. So, whatever that is, you want to find the gap, which is the hole in the boat, and pitch towards that if you see it. Because now you are aware that there is a gaping hole that you can come in and fix. And how does it lead to the ROI? How does that go back to money? Now I want you to forget that I said that. Because there are going to be lots of companies, and you're going to make your first list, and we're going to talk about making your first list of companies to pitch here in a bit, but you're going to be making your first list to pitch, and you're going to look at all these glorious companies that you love, that you think are awesome, because enthusiasm really is the magic that makes this happen. And you're going to look at that, and you're going to say, my gosh, their Instagram's great. Their Facebook's great. Their paid ads look like they're converting. They look great. And then you are going to skip pitching them. In 11 years, here's what I have found. People who are willing to spend money on good marketing don't want to backtrack. And just like any type of marketing, it is a beast that constantly needs to be fed. If they've invested in it once, they will invest in it again. In fact, perhaps at a more rapid rate than someone who hasn't invested in it at all. It's like getting your kid a Mercedes when they turn 16, and then when they turn 18, offering them a Buick. It doesn't work that way. You can start it the other way, but you can't go backwards. And that is exactly why I want you to look for the gap, and then I want you to forget about the gap. Because there are so many people that pass up on reaching out to companies because they are terrified that everything looks so good that there's no way that they can possibly come in and help them. And that is not true. So you want to be able to do both. Do you guys have any questions so far? I want to just make sure that there's anything coming up that I can address it now before we go into it deeper. So Jackie said the hang up I have sometimes get is a quick line about how they already have a team. So Jackie, that is great, and that occasionally happens. When that happens, and we're going to talk about follow-ups and rebuttals and overcoming some objections, you just let them, here's what I want to tell you guys. Their response doesn't matter that much. Pitching and following up is listening. The phone call, though, is more about listening and getting on the phone call and really listening to your listening to your, potential client. But what they say to you in an email doesn't matter because they don't know. They don't know what they want. They don't know what they have. And chances are when you get this kind of response, usually it means that the pitch was too skill-based. It was a little bit too much of, I could be part of the team. And I'm not saying that as freelancers, we're not part of the team, but you offer a different solution than they already have. Sometimes you will get that. The next time you get that, I want you to offer spillover work. That as special campaigns come up and as other things come up that they don't have the capacity for, because you guys, even as we are making a lot of money and start to make a lot of money doing this, we are eons cheaper than training an employee, than bringing on somebody else to an in-house team, training, taxes, if they don't work out and have to start all over again. So offer to keep it at this point, just say, let's keep in touch. If you have spillover work, I'd be happy to jump in. If you ever need a second opinion, just let me know. And then follow up. They don't go off your follow-up list just because they didn't bite right then and there. So keep that in mind, that it doesn't matter what they say. They could say, I already have a team. They could say, we're not sure. They could say, this is the art of talking to yourself. Because here's why drinking your Kool-Aid in the beginning is so important. The only reason that you are going to feel a little bad about maybe bothering them, the only time you're going to feel annoying, the only time that you're going to say, I don't know, I don't want to bother them again, is when you yourself are not sold that you have a solution that's draining money. If you were following your friend behind the street and they had dollar bills falling out of a hole in their pocket, would you whisper? Would you say one time, hey, you got some money that's falling out? And then if they didn't say anything, would you shut up? Would you just never say anything again? No. You would pick up the money, you would run after them and say, hey. And you would become more urgent. You would become more compelling. You would ramp up the urgency. Because why? Because you're convicted. You're convinced. Your friend, you can see it with your own two eyes. Your friend is bleeding money out his back pocket. That is what it takes when you are pitching. That is what it takes when you are following up. That kind of conviction. Yeah, that's nice what you said, but you clearly don't see that $100 bills are falling out of your pocket, so I'm just going to speak a little louder. Now, guys, that does not mean that you come in there with just used car salesman vibe and just that whole, most successful sales people look like you and me. They don't look like the blinged out, I'm selling you the Buick, forget that it's a lemon. That is such a small amount of people that succeed. And I venture to say that those people don't succeed for long. The people who succeed at this are the people who you can be polite. You can be charming. You can be friendly. But by all means, you better be persistent and you better be convicted. And so the biggest work that has to be done in taking you from somebody who is brand new and an amateur to cold pitching and to a successful cold sales master, essentially, is the conviction. The distance is the conviction, because you get better at the pitch as you practice it, as you see how they respond and who responds and what subject lines they respond to. But it never improves, guys, if the conviction doesn't improve. So what I'm asking you is to look wherever your stomach hurts thinking about doing this. I had a phone call Sunday. I took a phone call Sunday with a potential client that I have now followed up with 26 times. And that doesn't count the amount of, that doesn't count the amount of phone calls. That's just email. And finally, I caught him on a Sunday. And a proposal went out. I don't know if it will land. I will continue following up. But a proposal went out for an $8,000 retainer. That is worth 26 emails and multiple phone calls. This is not cold pitching and cold calling. And we're really just keeping it to cold pitching. It's not like the $500 projects that you see posted online. These are really lucrative opportunities. It's just like a date, not to be crass, but you wouldn't call somebody up and say, you want to hop in bed? Right? Not someone that you would get to know them. You would take them to dinner. You would court them. You would get to know them. And eventually you'd probably marry them if all went well. These premium clients are treated the same way. You can't send one cold email or one follow-up out of the blue and expect them to hand over a $5,000 retainer a month. Never going to happen. They know what they're worth to you. So you better know what you're worth to them and understand that it's equal. When I see freelancers who can't close, when I see freelancers who can't actually bring clients to the door and sign, seal, and deliver, it's because their seesaw looks like this. The company's here and they're here. And this freelancer is down here in their little Oliver Twist voice going, please, can I have some more? Because at the end of the day, you still think that they can do more for you than you can do for them. And it is an equal exchange. And the income and what you can charge and what kind of retainers you get will not improve until that side of the seesaw comes up. So, second paragraph, you've introduced yourself. You are this rock star. You are full of enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is super important. And you have dropped a truth bomb on them. Hey, Facebook ads do X for your ROI. I am a rock star at blah, blah, blah. Well, you introduce that first, then the stat. Then what do you talk about after that? You have a couple options. These shouldn't be more than 4 short paragraphs long because you're not looking to give them your life story. You're not looking to apply for a job. You're looking to inspire excitement. You're looking to hook them. Think about your pitch as a movie trailer, right? The best movie trailer. You don't need a 40-minute long movie trailer to be sold to go see a 2-hour movie, right? No, you need about 60 seconds. So now if you are experienced, this is where you can talk about a couple of the clients maybe that you've had. If you have any fancy schmancy names they might know, or if you're particularly skilled in their industry, please note you don't have to be. One of the things that is so great about marketing, about digital marketing, regardless of where you fall into the spectrum, social media, copywriting, influencer, whatever it is that we span across all verticals. You do learn specific things about industries as you work, but there is no reason why the foundational pieces of what you do should not work across the board for people. I used to have this saying that I said that if I could write for a steakhouse, I could write for a whorehouse, because what makes copy work, what makes marketing work, what hooks an audience, what builds a relationship with an audience, what makes them stay with you and not their competitor or your competitor, has nothing to do with the industry that you're in. So if you have that, it is okay to mention that. But if you don't worry about it because it doesn't matter. So for example, in my influencer pitch, I've gotten people featured on TechCrunch. I've done campaigns that have boosted sales by 15%. I've had things like that come up. So I mention it. And the names that they would know, I put that in there. Before I had that, I talked about the ideas that I have, because here's also where we shoot ourselves in the foot when we are in our own head of self-doubt and I can never do this and all of that. We forget that most business owners want ideas. They want ideas that you believe you can execute on. They want that more than experience. They want your enthusiasm. I have seen time and time again, and one of the reasons that I think that I was able to be successful with no experience out of, not out of the gate, but quickly considering, was because I cared. I had some raw talent. I had some good ideas, and I wasn't going to stop beating down your door until you gave me a chance. And you find me a CEO that does not want that kind of person, that does not want that kind of representative on their team, that does not want that kind of person running their marketing. Who do you think is going to excite a CEO who are renegades by nature, Who do you think is going to excite a CEO more? Someone who's like, hey, yeah, I don't have that experience. So what? Here's what I have. I have enthusiasm. I have ideas that you've not seen before. I love your product. I know your product. I know what you can do. I know what you can do and what you're about. And I'm ready to roll with those. Let's try it. Or the marketing person that they have had, or the in-house social media person that they have had now on a cozy salary for 5 years, who posts to Facebook twice a day, marks off their dutiful checklist, and nothing happens from it. What do you think is going to excite them more? The answer is pretty clear. So if you don't have a lot of experience, knock it off. Because there are many people who are willing to take a chance on someone who has good ideas. So in that next paragraph, if you have experience, mention a little bit of your highlights. And go ahead and then say you've got some great company-specific experience or ideas that you know could blow their social media out of the water. If they are tired of just posting that gets them nowhere, if they are tired of spending $3 or $4 per conversion on Facebook ads, whatever it is that you do, let them know that you've thought about them and you've got ideas specifically for them. And if you don't have the experience, then you just run with the idea and give them a little taste. And if you think that, oh, hey, people are going to run off with my ideas, have you ever watched, my boyfriend is a Facebook ads person, and I couldn't set up a Facebook ad if my life depended on it. That CEO is not going to go run off with your great idea and go execute it. And if he tries to, or if she tries to, great, because they will be back and you'll have to fix it, and it'll take you at least 3 months. That is fantastic. So don't be stingy. Again, you're not going to go into tons of detail because you don't have the room and space for it. You will on the call, but you don't be stingy. Let them know you have ideas. And then simply, you have to give them something to do after it. The introduction is important, obviously. Introducing yourself and telling them what you do is important. But those aren't easy. Those take massaging and practice. The easiest thing to do in a pitch is the most missed. And you can have a knockout pitch that then goes nowhere because simply you didn't ask for the phone call. You didn't give them a call to action. When I was reading a lot of brand new pitches, I'm telling you this so that you can beware when you're putting together your own, to be conscious of it, there were a lot of freelancers who were very excited about pitching, and they got very connected with what their industry could do. But there was a lot of self-doubt there. And so they failed to put themselves into the pitch. The pitch wasn't representative of them. So this is how it read. Hi, so-and-so, big fan of blah, blah shampoo, been using it forever, had you reach out, la, la, la. Hey, noticed I am a rock star, copywriter, noticed that your copy is blah, 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 all this stuff. Wanted to tell you, this is how copy, these are the stats for copy. This is how great copy helps you. Have a good day. Bye. Well, thanks. Thanks for telling me all of that information. And sometimes there wasn't even in the introduction. What happens is you part your pitch like the Red Sea. You just drop some truth bombs on a CEO and you're like, okay, bye, see you later. You have to be the one that you have to let them know I'm the person that executes that. But if you write a pitch and it's either disjointed or you don't say, hey, I've got these ideas and I want to talk to you, they're not going to call. They're not going to reply. You may have a couple that figure out what to do with it, but you really have to tell the person what you want them to do, or they will not do it. So it's really important that you just say, hey, I'm free Friday for a phone call. When would be good? I'd love to get you on the line. I'd love to share these ideas. And then your sign off. So that's just the first part. Now, one of the questions that comes up a lot that I want to address, you guys obviously hear me talking about CEOs a lot. I don't pitch marketing managers. I don't pitch senior VPs of marketing. I don't pitch directors of marketing. I don't pitch anybody who isn't at the helm. Here's why. Marketing directors, in-house social media people, they get nervous about us. We're not looking to take anyone's job. We're there to enhance what they're doing. But if you think about yourself in their shoes, it's not a hard conclusion to come to that people are just, plus they're not motivated. They're on salary. They have their cushy stuff. They work 9 to 5. They go home. They're not really, find me a 9 to 5 employee whose salary doesn't hinge on the results that they get, and find me one then who still is constantly reinventing what they're doing. It's not often that it happens because it doesn't have to. It kills productivity. It kills creativity. It kills finding new processes, and they know it. So if you pitch the marketing manager, they're going to blow their nose with your pitch. CEO is not going to see it. It's never going to see the light of day. It's going to just go straight to the bottom of the spam. The reason that you must pitch CEOs, and if you cannot find a CEO to pitch, then CMO is your next best move, is because they are the most like you. First of all, what they make hinges on how well the business does. A lot of them are CEOs/founders. Again, that is they've probably had 3 mortgages on their house before their business got to where it was. But they are the renegade thinkers. They are the ones who are grateful but not satisfied. They are the ones who want to keep doing better. They are the ones who want fresh blood. They are the ones who are competitive. They are the ones who are sick of seeing their friend sell stuff on Instagram and their Instagram doing nothing but taking up cyberspace. They are the ones with the blood in their veins that most matches yours. They are the ones who make the decision. Those are the ones that you pitch. Now, you will have times where they say, hey, I'm going to loop my marketing manager in. All right, fine. And what you are going to notice is sometimes the marketing manager sets something up and then tries to drag it out as long as they possibly can, or they push you to the bottom of the pile, or they do whatever, and that's fine because your initial contact was made with the CEO. And what he or she wants, he or she will eventually get. So it is scary, I think, when you're starting to go ahead and say, I'm going to pitch the CEO. But please know that is in your head because they are the most open on that entire team. It's kind of like we've all had jobs, like regular jobs and stuff. I mean, HR. Who's more entertaining to talk to, the CEO or somebody from HR? HR is painful. Anybody else that you pitch is going to have a similar result of HR. Now, this is only 10% of your job now at this point. Follow-up is the biggest part of this. I used to say that it was 80%, and I've actually changed that because in the last year and a half, I have done more following up than I think that I have done. And I am a good follower-upper, and I have done more. I did more following up in 2017 than I probably ever did, and it made a significant impact. And I thought I was doing all right already. 90% of the results, it's like basketball. I don't know how many basketball fans we have in here, but you know how if you have a team member whose skill is the 3-point shot, when they make that 3-point shot, that's going to be great. That'll win the game, that'll whatever. But you cannot have just a player. What happens with most 3-point shots? They miss them. Statistically, they're missed. Think about the pitches as 3-pointers. That first is a 3-pointer. Occasionally, 10% of the time, something will land. Someone will be like, oh my God, this is exactly what I was looking for. And I had this happen last Christmas. I pitched a company that I read about in Forbes that I loved. I loved diamonds and tech, and it was a diamond tech company. And so I pitched them, and they wanted to close Christmas Eve. Like it went so fast. It went within like a week. Those are the 3-point shots. They do happen. But 90% of the time, it is going to be all about the follow-up. So we'll talk to people and they'll say, well, I followed up 3 times already. Well, just buckle on in because you're just getting started. It takes more than that. It takes, this guy I told you about, 26 times. I have followed up with people 10 times. I have followed up with people for 6 months. I have followed up with people for 4. Here's the great news about follow-up, you guys. You're not cold anymore. And when you do a consumer-based pitch, you've already warmed up a little bit. But now when they start seeing you in the inbox, you're not cold anymore. So there's a couple questions. I just want to get to them so I don't miss. So, oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad that you're enjoying this, Magdalena. Jackie said, when's a good time to follow up in? So that's a great question. I like to follow up within a business week of the first pitch. And then I will keep following up at that. Depending on how they respond, I will follow up at that pace. As you continue, you want the urgency to kick up. So for example, in this is quarter one. And what you do in quarter one is the mirror of what the rest of the business year will look like. So right now is a great time to pitch and be like, hey, we've got to get quarter one off the ground now, because you're quarter two and quarter three, and if you have sales in August, depends on what we do between now and March. So you increase. One of the things that I like to do is, someone just asked me, what do you say each time when you follow up? Create urgency, create FOMO, but do not disconnect from who you are talking to. The minute you get in your head and you start thinking about the sales you need to make, the revenue you need to hit, the amount of clients you need, how your rent is doing, when do you get to quit your 9 to 5, the minute that you are in those thoughts, writing those follow-ups, your follow-ups will fail. And they will fail because you will sit there and not have any idea to write. Remember, if you remember one thing from this class, this is the art of talking to one's self. So make it interesting. One thing that I like to do is I like to inspire FOMO. Remember, CEOs are competitive. So what is the main competitor in their industry knocking out of the park that you can do that they're not doing? Tell them, show them. Let them know, hey, blah, blah, blah is doing real. It's not, and it's funny because I know it probably sounds super aggressive, but it's actually enthusiastic. It comes from a place of conviction. It comes from, I'm a big fan of TripAdvisor, and I see that Airbnb is doing this whole content strategy that TripAdvisor could be knocking out of the park. Then they're not doing it. And here's what it looks like. Here's what they're getting from it just online, just from what I can see. Where are you? Why aren't you doing that? Let's beat them. Let's smoke them. Let's dominate. And you don't have to even use those terms, but you will get CEOs to turn their heads. You will get a CEO who's like, okay, yeah, we're not doing that, because believe me, they know what they're doing, and they know what they're not doing, and they know where their team is dropping the ball, and they know what they'd like to improve, and they know what their competitors are doing. And they go to these events and they talk to these people and they see who's doing more sales on Instagram, whose paid advertising is doing better, who knocked it out of the park with influencer marketing, who got a spread in TechCrunch. They know. And you can get those things for them, so use it. That is what they want to hear. So what do I say when I follow up? I say those things. And it comes from a genuine place. I am genuinely connecting with them. Now I have templates, because here's the thing. Here's truth bomb for you guys. When you are getting started at this, especially if you want to see conversions, you want to send 100 pitches a month. That is the truth. 100 pitches a month will move the needle for you. Give yourself grace in the beginning. You are not born a sales master. It takes time. It's funny. I always have someone that comes up to me and they've been pitching for 4 days and they want to know why they're not a 6-figure freelancer yet. And it is breathe, baby, breathe. You are just getting started. But here's what happens at 100 pitches a month. Each one gets better. Every single one gets better. Here's what also happens at 100 pitches a month. You now have a template. And the way that your template should work is that your intro line, your intro paragraph should always, always be personal. Your idea, where you bring up the company name, should be personal. And the rest can be templatized. Your follow-ups can have a similar vibe. But I also say with your follow-ups, make sure that you are still connected with what it is that you want to do and not to just check something off a list. So 100 pitches a month. As you get better and as you land retainers, the number of pitches obviously drop. You won't always be sending 100, but if you are in a point where you are either trying to greatly increase your revenue or you are trying to get a baseline so that you can quit your job and work your business full time, or so maybe you're just like, okay, I just need to make $5,000 a month or $6,000 a month, and then I can roll from here. Cold pitching is 100 pitches, cold pitching will get you there. Now, will it get you there the first month? That depends. How's your learning curve with the pitch going? Are you learning from what's coming back to you? Are you tweaking it? Is your goal at this point to make every pitch better? Are you not sending out the amount that you should be because you're freaking out a little bit about making it perfect? Because it is a balance. Write one that's very personal to you first. Edit it. Be ruthless with it. Make it sing. And then use that as the template. It's kind of like breeding dogs a little bit. You are going to breed out characteristics as you go of your pitches that don't work for you anymore. So you'll start seeing as things come in, what people are replying to, what people are responding to, what they're not. The ones that aren't, get them out of there. The ones that are, use those as your new template and keep tweaking the process until those rates become higher and higher. Now, a couple things, just so I don't forget. I use Hunter.io. I don't know if any of you guys use it, but that's what I use to get CEO names or CEO email addresses. And it's real simple. I'm not real tech fancy, you guys. I don't use fancy tools. I don't have a lot of stuff. As you could tell, I could barely get into Zoom today. So that's not my jam. But what I do very simply to get the CEO email is I just Google CEO company name. It comes up. Then I go over to Hunter. Hunter.io is a Chrome extension. You put it in, you put the domain name in, you put the person's name in, and it brings up an email. Most of the time, I get what I'm looking for. Sometimes you have to finagle it a little bit. Sometimes you have to look on LinkedIn, but most of the time, that's a good way to find the CEO's email. For 100 pitches, you have to be a little strategic about it. So what I like to do is I like to start with inspired pitches. So I'll take 5 categories that I really love, 5 industries I really love, or maybe 3 industries that I really love, whatever it is. And I'll find who either really inspires me the most, make sure that they meet the revenue requirements of at least 10 million of what I'm looking for, or 5 million if a 2 to, $3,000 or $4,000 retainer is okay, or whatever it is. And then I do them in competitive sets. So I have one inspired pitch at the top, and then I look to see who their competitors are. And then I do one personalized first, and then I templatize it for the rest. Do not research and pitch on the same day, you guys, and do not go down the rabbit hole of research. You only need a couple things. Something personal about them that you really admire, that you really respect. The CEO's name and email of what you are planning on doing for them. And that, because you're selling the same thing to everybody, that should be pretty stable. But don't go down the rabbit hole of trying to pitch and sell at the same, or research at the same time. And don't go down the rabbit hole of having to have all the information. This isn't journalism. This is marketing. You get to fill in some of the blanks. So to get 100, take your Monday. Monday's like the best day not to pitch and to research. Take your Monday. Get a list of 25 for the week. Use it. Find the industries. Find 2 industries you like. Split it up and look at the competitive sets. Now, I do a lot of reading. I think reading helps a lot to see what's up and coming in the industries that I am interested in. But I also think when you're just getting started, there's a site called Owler.com. Caveat, Owler is not always 100% accurate, but it's generally in the ballpark. But what I like about Owler is you can put in a company's name that you're interested in. And then it's funny, Jackie, I'm touching on this. You can put a company's name that you're interested in, and it'll bring up what they expect their revenue to be. Now, there are old-fashioned ways of calculating it and blah, 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 but I think this is one of the easiest ways to go ahead and get the ballpark. Sometimes you can tell on LinkedIn, and there's other ways. There's like calculations that you can use, like you multiply the amount of employees by the average salary, and then you multiply that by 2.5, and then you'll get what the expected revenue should be. That's a lot of work. So Owler generally is good for that. But what I like even more about Owler is that if you're still like, okay, who do I pitch? It'll give you competitive sets of each person you're looking up. So you can add those to your list if you're interested in them. But when you're first starting, I really recommend starting with what you're enthusiastic with. What products do you use? What do you love? Who would make your heart sing? Who would make your heart sing to work with? Who would you like to, if your 2 retainers were 2 companies and you were making $10,000 a month from those 2, who would you love to help? That is, and I have to tell you, in all my time doing this, the pitches that move the fastest, the pitches that turn into clients that we sent Christmas cookies to each other. The clients that turned into the people that became just the most, that make this business worth it. So much of it came from who was I enthusiastic about? Who inspired me? Who could I really help? So don't overlook that because it sounds kind of woo-woo. Don't overlook that because it doesn't sound like maybe a 100% practical strategy, because those are the 3-pointers. Those inspired pitches are the 3-point shots that we're talking about. Something that I wanted to tell you, 2 words, just really 2 words. When you're working in your value and you're working in your ROI, 2 words that have never failed me in a pitch are new customers. Anytime you can talk or speak to why what you do relates back to new customers, even if it's not a direct sale. Because with social media marketing, it's not always, unless you're doing paid advertising, it's not a direct sale. You're doing something else. You're doing something bigger, but it does add to a bottom line. It is an important piece of the equation. So new customers have always been 2 words that CEOs have always wanted to hear more about. So let's see, I want to see if I've missed any questions. So Nick said, my gym client, I'm still trying to get followed about 20 times so far and I won't quit. If they've ever responded to you, Nick, before, I don't know if they've ever responded to you. A lot of times so if I have a call, so let's say I follow up with a CEO a bunch of times and then I have a phone call with them and then I can't get a hold of them ever again, I will just start calling and leaving messages. That's how I got a hold of the person on Sunday, is I switched my approach then from email to phone call. Now I don't do that. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. There are people who are cold calling experts that have a different approach than I do. But if I get them on the phone call even once, or if they reply even once with a phone number, I will start to try to catch them via phone. So you may want to just pick up the phone, because a lot of times it just moves the needle quicker. And it's funny because now that my business partner and I are in this position, because it's so easy, right, for stuff to go in your head, like, oh, I'm annoying them or this or that or whatever. And there have been people that we've hired to do stuff for us that have had to follow up with us like 6 times. And we are not a multi-million-dollar business. You know what I mean? And then I'm so grateful that they followed up, and it really solidified, that perspective, like being on the other side of it. And there were times where people they just called. They were like, we can't get you by email. We just called. And I was like, thank you, because I don't want to even be in my email right now. So that's how I look into revenue is Owler, or I use that equation. And the equation is, I'm just going to drop it in here really quick. So you take the number of employees and you multiply that by 2.5. This is if Owler fails you. You multiply that by average salary of that industry. And then you multiply that by 2.5. Okay, and that will help you with a ballpark of what their revenue should be. And LinkedIn can usually help you with how many employees a place has. I do that if I feel like Owler is way off on revenue. But as you start working, I have a ballpark idea. So I pitch a lot of diamond companies, so like diamond wholesalers and stuff like that, like people who have online shops, but then also shops in the Diamond District in New York or LA, for example. I have an idea of what their revenue is. I have an idea that they usually do about $1.5 million a month, for example, because of their industry. So you will start to get an idea of what some of these industries typically do, so that if Owler is way off, you'll know. Do you guys have any other questions for me at the moment while we're kind of talking about some of this stuff? I'm really excited. I'm really excited for you guys. It's one of the best. It is. I'm not going to say it's one of the best, because I know that different marketing strategies and client acquisition strategies, they work differently for everybody, and people find what they really love. But pitching made my business possible. Pitching made it, because there's something demoralizing, and I think we've all been there. There's something demoralizing about responding to stuff on Upwork or job boards or Mills or whatever, and to just get this warped perception of what people will and won't pay. It becomes, you feel trapped in a bubble, and that's not client creation anyway. That's self-employed employment, and that sucks. And that's not what we're here to do. We're here to make an actual difference in somebody's bottom line. We are here to actually say, hey, we can help you put more money in your pocket. and be compensated well for that. So Jackie said, so you follow up even if they don't respond. I especially follow up if they don't respond. Again, the art of talking to thyself. They don't respond. They hear from me. Now there are times, because sometimes your database gets huge, right? And there's only so much that your contact, whatever your management system is, or there are times where I will then back burner people. I'll check in maybe once a month. So if I've followed up 12 times and I've heard nothing, I will move that then to check in once a month or check in once every 6 weeks, so that I don't have to do 700 follow-ups every week, even with templates, that's intense. But especially if they don't follow up. They're reading it. Now, one thing that I did want to mention that I forgot. So when I started cold pitching, tracking emails was not a thing yet. If it was a thing, I was not unaware, because again, tech, I actually only started tracking my own emails, just to be totally honest, about 8 months ago. So I was successful at this before I tracked. I had my own way of analyzing data based on responses, but I did not track. And so I started tracking, and here is what I've discovered is the pros and cons of tracking. So I use HubSpot to track. Here's the pros and cons of tracking. You can find out if your subject lines are working faster. By the way, simple subject lines that use the company's name and introduce who you are the best. I have been using the same 2 subject lines forever. Don't try to get super cute. Don't try to don't be super spammy or super salesy. Who are you? What do you, who are you, and something about the company's name. So my subject line is real simple. So it said, the last ones that went out were influencer outreach rock star loves Costco. Easy peasy. I mean, that performs really, really well for me. And variations of that do as well. So, so here's the pros and cons. When you're first starting pitching, the cons are also the pros. You are going to be obsessed about who opened your email and how many times, and they've looked at it 7 times and they've sent it, and then it slows you down. They could open it 12 times and not respond, guys. They could open it once and respond. Do not go down the rabbit hole of looking at that. In fact, just look at it as you're evaluating your data at the end of the month. You really need to get 100 pitches out there anyway and evaluate your data. Look at it then from a little bit of distance, because if you look to see who opened your emails every single day and how many times they opened it, you are going to be miserable. I can't tell you how many times I get messages. It's like, Jenny, they opened my email 14 times in the last 3 hours. And what does that mean? And it becomes weird. It becomes like a tarot card session or something. And I'm like, it means nothing. It means that the subject line was good. So yay. It means that you need to keep pitching. It means that you need to do this and get back to following up and pitching. So what I highly recommend is, in my experience of doing it both ways, not tracking at all and now tracking it, is this. Don't pay attention to it too closely. Use it to tweak your pitches and your data at the end of batches of pitches. So you need to do your first 100 no matter what. Because your first pitch out of 100 is going to be nothing like your 50th. They're going to be so, so different. So it's really important that you don't get all caught up in that. Let's see. So Kat asked, have you found a day that's generally worked well for pitching and for following up? So I researched Monday, and then Tuesday through Thursday is really great. Friday, I don't think late Friday is fantastic, but I also want to say this. I'm not really strict about this kind of stuff. And the reason why is because, especially when you're first starting, getting the pitch out is the most important. But keep in mind what kind of precedence you want to send. If you're like, I am a Facebook advertising rock star and I am pitching you on Sunday morning, I'm not going to think your business is doing so hot. Or maybe you don't want to be available Sunday morning. A lot of times the way that your client meets you is where their expectations will come from. So I like to pitch personally. I like to research on Monday. I also find that people are really busy. In the office, and I mean, how many of you guys really want to jump on calls on Monday? It's kind of like got to get warmed up into it. And they feel the same way too. They're catching up with stuff from the weekend. So use Monday as a day to get set up for the week. Get your 25 companies lined up. Pitch Tuesday through Thursday. If you can get, it's really like, if you get those 25 pitches out. If you can double down on them on Thursday, excellent. But if you need to send them into Friday, it's okay. It's totally fine. Now, Friday night, it's probably going to get buried. Friday before 3, it's probably fine. But the reason that I also don't think that is a huge deal either is because the follow-up is king here. So this is really just part one. So it's like the follow-up is king. So that's part one. So it doesn't really, really matter at the end of the day. What matters the most, guys, is getting them out. If it's between you pressing send and you not pressing send, press send. And then you will tweak your own process. You will figure out what works for you. You'll figure out what people respond to. So Jackie said, I pitched a lot on LinkedIn. Should I pitch the same people in email or stick to the same platform? So I don't pitch on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is fantastic for leads, but I don't cold pitch on LinkedIn. So I use LinkedIn for research, but if I am pitching, it is strictly email. Because people are real prickly about pitching on LinkedIn because it's social, because it is social networking primarily. They get real prickly. Now, I think that you can get to know people and get to know your leads and talk about what you do and, you know, and all that. I think that's wonderful. But if you are cold pitching, email. Don't cold pitch through social platforms. Leave social to social and email for pitching. Now, you can get to know people. You can share their things. I mean, you guys are all awesome social media people who do things that I don't know about. So you could, you know, share things. You can get to know certain influencers or certain CEOs. The only time that I say maybe warm up a pitch a little bit with social media first is if they are like let's say you were going to pitch Tim Ferriss, for example. Tim Ferriss is going to be somebody because he's an influencer type of person. I would say share a couple of his things, maybe, you know, look at his Facebook, maybe engage a little bit, and then maybe write him a pitch that's, you know, what you appreciate about him. And then pitch him what you do. Like more build up to it is what I'm saying. But for businesses, for the majority of this, no, you can just go straight to the cold email. I love this topic. And then I get so out of breath. I think that's the first breath that I've taken in 30 minutes, guys. Awesome. Well, that is what I have for you today. Is there anything else that any other questions that I can help you with or anything? If you want to connect with me on Facebook, you can find me and Alex in the Six Figure Freelancer community. That's where we hang out. That is our home away from home. So you can always connect with me there. But if you have anything else now, I'm happy to answer. If not, I will leave you with all of that information. All right, guys, I don't see anything. Awesome. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out, and then I will probably put together a list for I don't know where Rachel posts things, but if there's a place where Rachel posts resources and things like that, I will pass along the resources that I shared so that she can post those in SMU for you guys if that's something that she does. Oh, you are so welcome. I'm so happy you guys enjoyed it. Yay. Well, awesome. Well, you guys have a great rest of your afternoon. And if you, like I said, you can come find me on Facebook and we will be in touch. This was really fun, guys. I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.